Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you capture this video. And today is the day after Valentine's Day. And I guess many of you did nice things for your loved ones. And that's fine and dandy. My wife and I have never celebrated Valentine's Day. My objective has always been to show my wife I appreciate her every day of the year, and not one that set aside for us to go out and do something for her. I don't want my wife to feel special when all other women are being treated the same way. I want my wife to feel special all the time. So do what you do. I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying we don't celebrate it. But today I just want to talk about a few things, and it's going to probably sound like I'm rambling a little bit, but if you just pay close attention, everything I'm going to talk about in this video is actually going to be a few pieces of the larger puzzle. You know, there was a gentleman named Brock Chisholm, and one of the things Brock Chisholm said was in order to achieve world government, it would be necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to their family traditions, national patriotism, and their religious dogmas. Now, how long have we actually been told that the collective is more important than self? I mean, I've read a lot of books on slavery and socialism from back in the 18th and 19th centuries, and what they always stressed was the collective. Whenever you hear people talk about the collective, they're talking about slavery. And so we've been told that collective is more important than self. Now, I remember reading a book years ago by Robert Schuller titled Self-Love. And if we don't first have self-love, we're not going to care about the collective. And I mean, we see that going on a lot in society right now. You know, self-fees. And, but I'm not here to get into all that. I might get into a little bit of that later. But that's part of the plan to take self-love away from us, so we don't have empathy and sympathy and compassion for our fellow man and woman. How many times do we see people take pictures or videos of something detrimental happening to a person, somebody getting beat up or something similar, and instead of helping those people like we once did, we actually film it so we can post it to our social media accounts? And I'm just saying we as a general term. I don't do that type of stuff. But I did read a story the other day where a lady was driving down the street and she actually saw a woman jump out of a second-story window. And she said the woman broke her leg on the fall, and immediately she saw a man come out of the house with a claw hammer and start beating on the woman. And fortunately for the woman, a car with three guys happened to be driving by at that time, and they saw what happened, and they got out of their car. They came to the woman's aid, and they beat the hell out of the man. Now, I don't know about you, but I love to hear about great love stories. And so apparently the guy had been beating the woman, and she had decided she had finally taken all she could take, and she was actually trying to leave him. Now, in my opinion, men who do this are some of the biggest scum on earth, in my humble but honest and accurate opinion. So individualism has almost been destroyed. And with the onset of the pandemic, we were encouraged to not visit our family in person for birthdays. And I mean, how many images did you see and videos did you see on social media of people having drive-by birthday parties, drive-by graduations, drive-by anniversaries, anything drive-by? Because we were encouraged not to visit with our family for any event, birthdays or holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, graduation, sporting events. And a lot of people even have elderly and family members in assisted living facilities, and they couldn't visit those. You know, I just read a story about 2 or 3 days ago where a 70-year-old gentleman, he and his wife had been married. I think they been married about 50 years. They met when they were teenagers or so, and she had to go into a facility before all of this happened because she was suffering from dementia. He wasn't really in a position to take care of her, but he would visit her every day because she didn't recognize it. And they told him he could no longer visit her once this all took place. And I don't, the guy might have been older than 70 years, or they might have been married longer than 50. I'm just kind of drawing a blank on that right now. But the wife ended up dying, and a few days after, he himself passed away. And I mean, look at what all of this is doing to us as a society that call ourselves civil. I mean, we have people that are in positions now and they want to tell us, well, it's law. Well, first of all, everything they're mandating is not a law. Secondly, slavery was a law. Where is your morality? Where is your sense of compassion? Where is your true love for your fellow brother and sister? To hell with these mandates when it comes to seeing your family and your loved ones and your friends. Somebody needs to stand up, and thankfully there are some people standing up. You don't see them on the news or anything, but there are actually some people fighting on behalf to help us gain back some of our freedom, because we're never going to get all of them back. You know, you can forget that. And so I'm not so concerned with national patriotism, and you probably shouldn't be either. And, you know, I used to hear, you know, time and time again, you know, that we're supposed to be loyal to the country. No, we're supposed to be loyal to the Constitution. And we start putting the country before the Constitution, and look at the mess we're in right now, because we got the words all messed up. See, when our military officers take an oath, they take an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That means you can have domestic enemies in your country, running your country. But they're supposed to defend the Constitution, not the country. And so anything that violates the Constitution is supposed to be defended against. And so you shouldn't care too much about that national patriotism either. And I mean, I know a lot of our military men would take issue with that, and I love them and what they stand for, what many of them stand for. Not all of them, what many of them stand for. But, you know, I've done a lot of research, and I'm saddened and troubled by what I found about how they did our men and sending them all these places to take away the freedoms of all these people in these other countries in the name of spreading democracy. Hell, them other countries didn't ask us to come implement no democracy. We're not even a democracy here. We're a republic. Democracies always end up in slavery, in socialism, in communism. So you need to understand that. And when I hear people in this country say we're a democracy, it makes me cringe. Every democracy ends in slavery. Check your history. Do your own research. Don't take my word for anything. And as far as the religious dogmas are concerned, what we're seeing right now is the merging of all religions under the one world religious system, which is actually to be controlled by the right-hand man of the anti. And so you should know that the real target of those who want to destroy religion is those who really, the target is those who really believe in the Bible and they abide by it. You know, because it's a lot of people that don't abide by it that actually believe in it. I mean, Satan himself believes in it. He just don't abide by it. And so they're not concerned with the lukewarm folks. I mean, I've done enough research on all the different religions, and you know, I was raised with the Bible, and after all of my research, I'm going to stick with the Bible, because a lot of these other books got some things, you know, that I just have issues with. I mean, one particular faith says there's no such thing as absolute truth. Well, that already cancels anything else in that book. But I'm not here to talk about religion. I'm just talking about some subject areas, and I'm going to go on for a while. I don't know how long I'm going to talk, but I'm going to be going for a minute. But the system wants all the hardcore believers to cater to the system. Even though Steve Harvey has started a movement somewhat where he says we can merge with each other. You know, Oprah said it some years back. Rick Warren said they could coexist. You know, I think he started a term called Chrislam. And I mean, like I stated, I've studied some of this other stuff. Have you studied what some of these books teach? And I'm not here to put one down or another down. I'm just saying I'm sticking with the Bible. Okay? So you do your research or you don't do your research. Don't make me no difference. So individualism has almost been destroyed. Family and family values have almost been destroyed. Religion has almost been destroyed. Well, I mean, religion needs to be destroyed because all of them are man-made anyway. But as I stated, they're not really after religion. And in reality, they're not even after the other belief systems. The only thing they're after is the Bible. Because they want to do everything they can to get rid of God and anything godly. When you hear the now normal term, which is the new normal, it's just a modern way of saying the new world order. Now, as I stated, I might be all over the place in this one, but I'm doing it this way because I don't feel like creating a whole bunch of separate videos right now. And so, you know, bear with me, but I hope you listen to the whole thing and start doing your little research. But here recently, Roland Martin was talking about reparations. And he said you just can't give reparations to black people. And he didn't directly say it, but basically what he said was black people were dumb to even believe in something like that. He said blacks don't understand the federal laws, and for those who say that something was done for the LGBT community, that includes LGBTQ from all races, not just blacks. Now, ironically, Joe Biden actually said directly that he was doing something specifically for Asian Americans, specifically for illegal immigrants. Okay? So Roland Martin saying you can't do anything specifically for black folks, but the new president said he's going to do some legislation specific for certain people. Sounds like Martin is trying to cater to the system to me. But that's just me. I didn't say he was. I said that's what he sounded like. Okay? So don't put no words in my mouth. Kamala Harris was asked directly if she supported reparations for blacks. And in typical politician form, she danced all around the question. She started hemming and hawing, talking about, you know, if some people start 400 years behind and yada, yada, yada. She didn't answer the question. But in the end, the answer was no. Barack Obama was asked about reparations, and he said blacks now had access to better education and opportunity. Translation, no. Ironically, Joe Biden and Obama gave Holocaust survivors some reparations right before they left office in 2016. I think that's a specific people. Joe Biden wrote the legislation, Barack Obama signed it. But Roland Martin said, you can't put no legislation in place for one particular people. I mean, I just gave you 3 groups. Now, black folks got mad at Mitch McConnell for saying blacks got their reparations by Obama being elected. I mean, it was, I mean, you got to be an idiot to even making a statement like that, but he made it. Black folks got upset with it. And so, although what McConnell said was tacky, he said nothing different from these other folks. No. You ain't get nothing. Now, if you go back, and I'm going to keep referring to that video I did a few weeks back on color and colorism and caste. If you haven't listened to that video, take some time and go listen to that one, because you'll understand these next few statements I'm getting ready to make. Roland Martin has some Haitian ancestry. Kamala Harris has Jamaican and Asian Indian ancestry. Barack Obama has Caucasian and Kenyan ancestry. You recognizing a pattern yet? The darker skinned peoples in positions of influence said hell no to full-born American black gaining any type of compensation. Sure, I've heard the arguments that none of us were slaves and nobody living today owned a slave. However, we're not running in the same race if a group of people are starting a race in this country 361 years behind everybody else. Even the people, immigrants that come here now with their green cards and all of that stuff, they're given certain provisions to help them advance. They don't want to admit it, but they are. You know, if they come over here with $100 or $50 in their pocket, they will get accepted into these universities where we have to struggle and fight as black people to get into those same schools. But they're given provisions. So we still get placed at the bottom of the stack when it comes for anything. See, official slavery wasn't recognized in this country until 1654. But slavery actually started, I believe, in the year 1502 by a guy named Hugh Gwynn. Now, as I stated, I told you in the color and colorism video that this system is not going to allow a black American with 2 black parents into high levels of anything. Why do you think we keep getting these partial black folks to represent us? We got Obama, partial black. We got Harris, partial black. We got Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick, partial black. We got Shaun King, partial black. We got W.E.B. Du Bois, partial black. We got William Monroe Trotter, partial black. Now, I know you'll say Booker T. Washington was partial black, but Booker T. Washington was different. He didn't work too well in the system, so they had to do everything in the system they could to ostracize and discredit him. What do you think one of the purposes of the NAACP was? But you know why they do it? Do what? To give us the illusion of color. First of all, according to their historical rules, anybody with 1 drop of black blood is considered black. Secondly, the system knows if a partial black person is involved, they don't have to worry too much about them pushing a black agenda. When you do have blacks with 2 black American parents ascend to a position of prominence, they miraculously attend a predominantly white university at some point in their educational career. Look at many of your so-called black leaders today and check their educational credentials. Look at your civil rights crew, the entire civil rights crew, and check all of their educational credentials. Look at W.E.B. Du Bois and his educational credentials. Look at the crew from the failed Niagara movement with Du Bois and their educational credentials, and that's why they were gobbled up by the NAACP. Check all of their educational credentials, and I guarantee at some point in every last one of them, they went to a white university. And I'm not guessing because I've already researched it myself. I'm just telling you, look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Now, is it just me, or is all the news right now still focused on Donald Trump? We got the impeachment all over the TV and all over the news and everything. Donald Trump is out of office and he still dominates the airwaves. You would think with all of the press they gave Biden leading up to the presidential election, they would be telling us how great him and all of his policies are. But they are largely silent on anything about him. Do you know why? Because his policies are destroying people's livelihoods. So they don't want to talk about that. They want to keep your mind and your attention focused on Trump. But we got Mr. Meanie out of office. I remember the water boy, you big meanie. Adam Sandler called old boy from the opposing team, you big meanie. We got Mr. Meanie out of office. But we still ain't paying attention to what's happening to people's livelihoods since Biden has taken office. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer just introduced something called a PRO Act. Well, somebody else, some other Democrats introduced it. They done signed on to it, which is similar to some legislation called AB 50 in California. And that legislation has almost destroyed the gig economy in California. Now, if this PRO Act is signed into law, millions of more jobs are gone automatically. In the gig economy, I don't know if you know this or not, there are 10.6 million people who work as independent contractors. Uber alone has 1 million people who represent the company. Now, freelance workers like journalists, photographers, florists, musicians, and some other different professions have actually all lost work in California under that AB 5. One lady over in California who did all of her work through the gig economy said she is now down to only one client, and she only receives work when they have it, and her income is 1/4 of what it used to be. And I mean, that's like trying to picture this. That's like trying to stand a chair up that only has one leg instead of four. How's that going to work out for you? Another lady who was a yoga instructor said that the act has hurt her as well, and she's down to just doing part-time and has lost roughly 3/4 of her income. Now, Thomas Sowell said, because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said it's going to be beneficial to the people. But Thomas Sowell said the programs that are being labeled for the, and he's not talking about this particular program. He's just talking about anytime they come out with programs that are supposed to help the people, he said the cure is actually worse than the disease. And so he said the programs that are being labeled for the poor, for the needy, almost always have effects exactly the opposite of those which their well-intentioned sponsors hope them to have. So do you know what they're trying to condition people for? Again, and I've told you already, you're going to keep hearing this term, universal basic income. I keep trying to tell folks, but they don't want to listen to me. Since my last video, I saw a show where Tyler Perry was being used to get black folks to sign up for the shot. The Biden administration has agreed to meet with Ice Cube. And I don't want to hear that it takes time because, in the last video I mentioned that Ice Cube hadn't got that meeting yet. I don't want to hear that it takes time. The meeting with Ice Cube now is nothing more than a formality to shut y'all black folks up, because black folks are saying, you ain't met with Ice Cube yet. So now they're going to meet with him to shut black folks up. Biden is already, he was really pushing hard for the $15 minimum wage. He's already backtracked and said it's not going to be in the next stimulus plan. So he's backtracked on that already. Also, since the last video, I've come across HR 127, which was introduced by Sheila Jackson Lee, who's down here in Houston. Hey, if you don't like guns, that's your business. If you have guns, that's your business. But I think we should allow people the freedom to make decisions that they feel is in their own best interest. It is no secret that I think politicians do us more harm than good. Do you even realize political parties are private entities? Did you ever see political parties anywhere in the Bill of Rights or the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence? So if they're not in any of those documents, where did they come from, and who do they work for, and who do they represent? So political parties are private entities that have no allegiance to the people. Every time a politician introduces new legislation, we lose more of our rights. HR 127 is a new gun control bill called a Sabika Sheik Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. Now, Joe Biden said he wanted weapons off the streets, weapons of war off the streets. And just like most politicians, he calls an AR-15 an assault rifle. Now, if you study the reason why the rifle is called an AR-15, it's because the name of the company who started building the guns is named Armalite, A-R-M-A, capital L-I-T-E. That's why it's called AR, Arma. That's why it's called, it's not an assault rifle, it stands for Armalite. But how long have I been telling you, when the system wants to take your rights away, especially from black people, they use a black person? Here are just a few things included in the bill. Give me a second to pull that up. Here's just a few things in it. These are not all of them, it's just the ones that I think are really bad. You have to complete a 24-hour gun safety training course, and you must undergo a psych evaluation. Individual license for ownership and display of antique firearms, standard firearm license, and military style license. Did you hear me say individual license? That's for each different type of weapon. Military license requires additional 24-hour safety course. This also discriminates against anyone who has ever seen a therapist or had to get mental health treatment, such as victims of abuse. Did you hear what I said? Victims of abuse. And people with depression, veterans seeking care for PTSD, depression and addiction are mentioned specifically as reasons for licensing denial. It also requires an $800 annual government insurance fee for all current and future gun owners to be paid to the Attorney General every year. It bans all magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. And I hope you know, if this passes, that $800 fee is going to miraculously increase every year thereafter. I mean, just think about your down here in Texas, how you got rid of the emissions part of your car vehicle inspection, and then your registration fee went up more than what they took away with the emissions. There's no grandfather clause, meaning that this is going to apply to anyone that owns a gun, not just those who purchase a new firearm. The grandfather clause, all firearms owned shall be registered under penalty of up to $150,000 and 15 years in prison. And the grandfather clause says you can pass it down and pass it down and pass it down. Well, every time the gun is passed down to the next generation, the next generation has to pay new registration and licensing fees. Now, somebody says she does a great job. Serial, make, model, date, identity of owner, and the location of where the firearm will be stored is to be collected and maintained in a database by the U.S. Attorney General. Names and information of all those who may have access to the firearm shall be collected as well. Now think about that. If you have company at your house, and I'm not saying they know where your weapons are or anything, I'm not saying anything like that, but just the mere fact that they're visiting your house, they have access to your weapons. So that means anybody that comes to your house has to be listed. So that means if a plumber comes to your house, the plumber has access to your weapon. If an electrician comes to your house, an electrician has access to your weapon. You see how much overreach this bill has? Now, Donald Trump doesn't get off here because he passed what's called red flag laws. And that says, you know, and he even says something about take the guns first and go through due process second. So he ain't getting off the hook either. But I'm talking about what's happened since my last video. And Biden said he plans to pick up where Donald Trump left off. Now, under Biden's plan, which is also similar to the plan under Trump, family members or law enforcement officials will be able to make claims without any evidence, allowing a person's guns to be temporarily taken until that person is declared fit enough to get them back. Are y'all paying attention? And so we can't put that on Trump. Now, Trump is gone. But I talked about it with a few people while he was in office. Every law that gets passed treats us more and more like the criminal and not law-abiding citizens. Let me ask you a question. Do you think a criminal is going to register anything? Now, there are some folks out there who actually believe this legislation is a great thing. And I mean, I know we have some crazy people out there who don't know no better. But apart from them, if you're a single lady, I mean, think about this. If you're a single lady or a young kid at home alone because the parents are at work, or you an elderly person, would you rather take a chance dialing 911 in case of robbery? I mean, call them anyway, but would you rather take a chance calling 911 for a robbery or a home invasion and have to sit around and wait on the police? Or would you prefer that you armed or your next door neighbor's armed? I mean, we learned how to shoot. Well, okay, I can't say we, but me as a boy, I learned how to shoot guns at a young age by my dad and my granddad. And, I didn't see a need to have them. I'm just telling you. But I was still taught how to handle them properly. I took ROTC in high school. And guess what they taught us in ROTC? How to shoot a 22 rifle. And we were taught gun safety and all those things. So, I don't have a problem with people that want weapons in their house. Like I said, I didn't see a need to have them. But everybody has the right to do what they feel is in their best interest. But would you prefer for that single woman or that elderly person or even that child, all of them be trained in firearms training, safety training, and things like that, but so they'll know how to protect themselves should they get caught up in a home invasion or they come home and somebody's in the home already ransacking it? I mean, or if they don't have something, would you prefer the next door neighbor to be able to come to the aid with a life-saving piece of artillery? Hey, I'm just asking questions because I have a neighbor who's 94 years old. And her home alarm went off on a couple occasions. The first time, it went off about 10 o'clock at night. And the police never showed up. This woman's 94 years old. Second time it went off, they showed up about 4 hours later. Now, I'm the first responder for her alarm company, okay? You know what she told me? She said, Myron, I'm so glad that you're right here with me. I mean, we make lighter situations like that, but folks appreciate when they have somebody that can come to their aid in a time of need. But what are we going to do if we have no recourse from the police, if they're not showing up? Because they don't place a priority on those calls. So, what are you going to do? Folks who like to say, wait for the police should be the only ones on. What are you going to do in a situation like that? When your life is on the line, you don't have minutes or hours to wait on the police. On several cases in my neighborhood alone, they've never shown up. This did not just happen to my neighbor. One couple said their home was being broken into and they called 911. The police never showed up. Apparently the robbery went on for quite some time, and I'm guessing they were locked in a room somewhere. And the wife called 911 back because she said her and her husband were scared for their life because the police still hadn't showed up. And she said they shot somebody, and the police immediately showed up. And guess what? The officer got pissed off and told them to never do that again because he would take them to jail. So if your life is being threatened, according to the police, it is of no importance. But if you shoot someone who violates you in your house, it becomes important. The person you shot life is important. I mean, I get what the police officer said. But after no response and this couple's life was in danger, what should they have done in that situation? It's always much easier for someone to tell someone else what they should or should not have done in a certain situation. But if the person that gave them the advice was in the same situation, they would ignore their own advice. So, in spite of this bill that HR 127, that Sheila Jackson Lee has proposed, the governor over here in the state of Texas said he wants to make Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state because Beto O'Rourke is planning a gubernatorial run in 2022. And he was never shy about what one of his greatest aims was, and that was to go after guns. You remember what he said in 2019? Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15 and your AK-47, excuse me. And so that's what Abbott's fighting against. And I know a lot of black folks have a problem with Abbott. And it's not that they have a problem with Abbott. They have a problem because Abbott's a Republican. We got a problem with Republicans. And so Abbott said it would be a law that would prohibit any state or local government official from doing anything to implement any law, state or federal, that would take guns away from any Texan. And that's what he told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Now, many people still have a misunderstanding of a thing that most politicians ignore called the Constitution, which says in the 10th Amendment that rights belong to the state, not the country, not the feds. So unless your governor authorizes the federal government has no legal standing in that state. A few months back, I mean, it's a full assault for people that have guns, legal guns, because they can't find the guns that the criminals have. But these Democratic politicians are in full assault mode. And as I said, a few months ago, Democratic Representative Terry Meza over in Dallas, I believe, introduced a bill called HR 196. And when she got kind of blasted and everything went viral about what she had said, she came back and tried to fix it. She said her bill was misconstrued. And she was talking about the Castle Doctrine. And she said it's not to repeal the Castle Doctrine. She just wants to amend it. And she said her bill was taken out of context. An amendment she wants to leave the doctrine in place, but she wants to amend it so that the homeowner pump the brakes. Pump the brakes right there. Let's stop right there. The homeowner. What did I tell you? They put laws in place for the law-abiding citizen. She wants to amend it so that the homeowner has to retreat from the person who entered their home and only use deadly force as a last resort. She wants to protect the criminal. So let me get this straight. You're in your home, which is your safe haven or sanctuary place for you and your family. Someone breaks in, possibly with a weapon. And your first duty under this measure would be for you to retreat, not the burglar. Man, y'all vote for these people. You know, over the years, I've watched politicians from both sides, and whatever thing they're the most passionate about are the very things they are doing themselves. Those who push gun control measures would not hesitate to pump a few rounds into an intruder. Those who advocate for family values are involved in all types of immorality, even the ones you like and adore. Those who claim they are for peace have always signed the bills to go to war. The last two-term president actually signed a deal with China that gave them control and ownership of the Gulf of Mexico. But China doesn't want that announcement to go public until Americans are disarmed. They said Americans have too many guns. Vladimir Lenin said one man with a gun can't control 100 without one. Now, that's why you can have bank robberies with only one armed suspect. He controls the situation because nobody wants to take a chance of them getting shot. The gun allows him or her to control the situation. If all guns are removed from the law-abiding citizens with the promise of government protecting us, how does that work? Because at that point, criminals in government will be the only ones with guns. Oh, I already mentioned criminals. These folks who are advocates for strict gun control have always signed the Declaration of War paperwork. Check their records. It's available in a Freedom of Information or congressional record. Why is it okay for them to bomb the hell out of innocent people in most cases, darker skinned people around the world who haven't done anything, but you don't have the right to just protect yourself and your family? Why is it that these elected officials want to take all of your rights away when it comes to protecting you and your family, But every last one of them are surrounded by armed guards when they talk to you or travel or do anything. Do you think the people that roll with them are just aides? There was a guy named Jeff Cooper, and I don't know if the guy's still living or not, but he said something a while back, and he said the rifle itself has no moral statute since it has no will of its own. Naturally, it may be used by evil men for evil purposes, but there are more good men than evil. And while the latter cannot be persuaded to the path of righteousness by propaganda, they can certainly be corrected by good men with rifles. Excuse me. As much as the Democrats say Trump was like Adolf Hitler, guess who was more like Adolf Hitler? Democrats. Hitler is the same guy that said to conquer a nation, you must first disarm its citizens. Mass shootings at school and places like that is when gun control measures really get ramped up. Guess what else Hitler said? The state must declare the child to be the most precious treasure of the people. As long as the government is perceived as working for the benefit of the children, the people will happily endure almost any curtailment of liberty and almost any deprivation. Why do you think the mass shootings get promoted so much? The crazy thing about these Democrats is they're always advocating for protecting life, or so they say. But why doesn't an unborn baby count as a life? Life begins at conception. But the way they justify the behavior is to classify the unborn child as a fetus. You ain't never heard a woman walk around that was going to carry her baby to term and say she's pregnant with a fetus. She says she's pregnant with a baby. But describing it as a fetus is a way to make the woman feel better about that decision to murder that she's going to make or she's made already. So if you say it's not a life, it's much easier to go through with the procedure. I think the Bible has something to say about offering up sacrifices to Baal. You know the power is in the blood, especially the blood of children. I recently ordered a book about human sacrifice. I hadn't read it yet. Well, I've had it for a while. I just hadn't read it yet. I just looked at it today. That's probably why I said I recently got a book. But I've had it for a while. I just hadn't opened it yet. But it's talking about human sacrifice. And, I know it in the book because it was recommended in another book I read some time back. And it was talking about how they would kill the babies so they could mix their blood in the concrete. And that's why a lot of the structures around the world are still strong and standing, because they said the blood from babies helped solidify the concrete mixture. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. And so it was in that book, it was talking about where they got that information from. So I got the book, but like I said, I hadn't read it yet. And there's power in the blood. That's why the Bible is real specific on shedding innocent blood. That's why the Bible is very specific on not touching a woman when she's on her cycle. There's power in the blood. I mean, how many of you heard that song at church? There's power in the blood. I mean, Jesus spilled his blood. Or Yeshua, whatever you call him. He spilled his blood. So they classified the unborn child as a fetus to justify their barbaric decision. The Republicans are no better. Although they advocate being pro-life, they have not passed one piece of legislation at any point when they've had control of the White House, the Senate, and the Congress at the same time. But they sure talk a good game to keep those with traditional values voting for. Even the Dalai Lama was in favor of citizens having guns. He said if someone has a gun and is trying to kill you, it will be reasonable to shoot back with your own gun. Do you know what gun control is really about? People control. Do you know what food control is all about? People control. I mean, did you see that Bill Gates is the largest owner of farmland in America now? You realize almost all the seeds you buy from the big box stores and other stores are pretty much owned by Monsanto. So The same makers of, I think, Roundup. You do realize the Monsanto family was very prominent in the slave trade as well. Do your own research. With just one missile strike, we could feed practically every starving human being on Earth, based on what that missile costs. With the amount of money spent on political campaign contributions, how many people could be fed with those dollars? I ain't giving nothing to a politician. You should take the same position. You really don't want to know what political contributions are? It's the same thing as buying a lottery ticket. It's voluntary taxation. All you're doing is giving more of your hard-earned money to the government. And for what? So they can get in office and give you the middle finger? If you just want to give your money away, just email me. I'll include my Cash App tab in the description box if you just want to give money away. And you can give it to me. And if you don't have Cash App and you just feel it in your heart that you just want to give it to me, you can email me. My email address, myranjones@gmail.com. Or, reach out to me. And I'll just tell you how you can send it to me if you just want to give your money away. I mean, at least I'm giving you content on a regular basis. So if you just want to give your money away, stop contributing to the tax code and just send it to me. I mean, I'll appreciate it. I mean, I'll even tell you thank you. I'll probably send you a personalized message, card in the mail or something, but I'll say thank you. I won't give you the middle finger. I'll keep giving you the content every other week. Let me say this again. Laws do not stop those whose objective is to break the law. The great black actor, James Earl Jones, said this: "The world is filled with violence. Because criminals carry guns, we decent law-abiding citizens should also have guns. Otherwise, they will win and the decent people will lose." All gun control means is the guns are pointed in one direction, and that direction is at you, the law-abiding citizen. What is to stop a criminal who knows you have nothing to protect yourself with from doing harm to you? The great majority of us are not Navy SEALs or Green Beret or Marines. The Marines are the tough guys. We're not trained in hand-to-hand or hand-to-gun combat. I mean, that looks all fine and dandy on television, but we're not trained for that. I mean, and if you think their hands are not lethal, let them get in a fight in a civilian aspect, and they're going to be judged more harshly because of their special skills. As I stated, some things have happened since the last video. Rapper Lil Uzi Vert had a pink diamond implanted in the center of his forehead. I think they said it was like a $24 million diamond. I mean, where did he get that kind of money? First of all, is that his mark? I don't know. Just asking the question. Have you ever said Lil Uzi Vert real fast? As one word? Hey, I don't know if the shot is the mark or not. I doubt if it is, but I think it's a step in that direction. The technology has been in place for years. We just didn't really understand it because it was labeled convenient. The young lady I was dating before I met my wife, father was military, she's military, and she told me, and this was 1991, she told me at some point we were going to be where we are today. And I said, no, but see, military has access and they're working on stuff about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years before it ever becomes public knowledge. So we're way behind the technology. This is just the technology that they've released to us so far. But we just didn't understand the technology because it was called convenience. When they first built the first computer, we were headed in a direction already. But even before that technology was in place, we were going that way. They gave us, in the television show, the robot R2-D2. They gave us credit cards. We got self-service gas stations. What it is, conditioning. And they gave us automated teller machines. They call them ATMs. So you could bypass going inside of a bank, and you could also get money after hours. Conditioning. Then they expanded your debit card to full-blown credit cards with the Visa or MasterCard logo. Conditioning. Then they gave us cards with the black strips on the back of them so we could just swipe it to enter the workplace. You need keys no more. Conditioning. Then the companies expanded and offered their employees the chance to get an implant in their hand instead of the card, so they can just swipe the hand in front of a device. Conditioning. Some companies use retina scans. Conditioning. We got the smartphone technology, and now a great majority of people do everything from their phone. Conditioning. If you can lock and unlock your house and car from your phone, guess what? Hackers and the companies you bought the technology from can as well. Because when you do that, especially with like home alarms and things like that, you got to call the company and give them your password. Is this stuff registering with you? We have smart locks controlled by the phone to control the front doors of our home. Conditioning. We have remote key fobs that allow us to open the door of our vehicle when we get close to it and crank it. And I mean, think about it. You used to have the keys with a separate remote fob. Now you just got the fob. You don't even have keys anymore. So you can just walk up to the car. You ain't got to take the fob out your purse or your pocket. You can just open the door. You remember back when Knight Rider was out and David Hasselhoff would walk up to Kit and he just touched the car handle with his hand and open the door, and any other person that tried to open that door couldn't do it. Knight Rider came out in 1983 or some early 80s. But look how far back the technology was already in place. I loved watching Knight Rider. Anything that had a car, I loved watching it growing up. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially black people right now, are upset about the Confederate flag. You let the Dukes of Hazzard come on TV right now, and guess where I'm going to be? In front of the TV watching Bo and Luke Duke. We're in the General Lee. I don't care about General Lee. I mean, I understand General Lee's history, Robert E. Lee's history. I don't care about that flag on the car. I just want to see the car. I don't care about the paint job. But we push a button to start the vehicle because it's all computer driven now. I mean, you got refrigerators now where you can just knock on it and the screen opens up and lets you look inside to see what's inside the refrigerator. I mean, how lazy is that? If you're at the door and you can knock on it, why not just open the door? I mean, it takes me and my granddaughter to sit there and talk about that technology. And she even at her age, she thinks that's a little over the top. I mean, me and her think alike on a lot of things anyway. So, but we have some issues that we go back and forth about that we don't agree about. And I told her one day she realized how wrong she was. But what's to stop a hacker from gaining control of your vehicle that's computer driven? I mean, what do you think the GPS technology is? They know where you are at all times anyway. Nobody has to come, you see, somebody damage a car, they can come cut your brake line or do something like that. And you ain't got to do that now. They just control it from their computer. You can now pay your bills through apps and mobile banking. Conditioning. You can send money to people through apps and mobile banking. Conditioning. You can do digital currency through your smartphone. Conditioning. All of these technological advances are conditioning us to remove our own power and faculties to do anything for ourselves and to unemploy as many people as possible. We now have robots that sweep and vacuum our floors, cut our yards. And my wife and I, some years back, we went to a home and garden show. And I was laughing because they had a lawnmower, a robot lawnmower you just programmed to cut your grass. And I'm like, and you got to be real lazy to buy something like this. And look at what we're dealing with today. I mean, if you don't want to cut grass, why even get a house? Just get you an apartment or a condo or a townhouse or something like that. I mean, but that was probably about 18, 19 years ago when I first saw that. We have robots that deliver packages, robots that take orders, robots answer the phone, robots autocorrect your text messages on your phone. What do you think autocorrect on your phone is? It's artificial intelligence. We have robots that take your orders at restaurants. We have robots that wash your car. That technology has been around forever. How many of you actually remember, I don't know if all of you are old enough, but how many of you remember a movie from the 80s called Maximum Overdrive? That movie shows us what happens when artificial intelligence takes over machines. Look at the movies like uh, the Terminator series, Our Robot, Gemini Man, RoboCop, and Minority Report. Then you had a movie some years ago with Ice-T and um, what's his name? Rock. I can't think of the guy's name. Charles Dutton. Rock. Uh, they were in this movie called Surviving the Game, and it shows you what men with too much money do for recreation. Years later, they would follow these movies with the Purge series, the Hunger Games series, and it's another one that's a series, and I can't think of it right now. Uh, Divergent. Divergent. I think that's the name of it. I think it's Divergent. It's a Divergent series. But even before then, we had movies like Road Warrior and Mad Max with Mel Gibson, not the current Mad Max. And then we got the movie a few years ago, The Book of Eli, to show us what the real goal is. You better get that Bible inside of you. Because, as I stated earlier, that's really what they're after. They want to destroy the Bible. It's amazing to me that we have multitudes of people who don't want the Bible because of what it teaches. But these same people turn their kids over to an educational system that tells them what to think. The school system is the way to condition your kids, and the news media is the way to condition adults. 6 companies with 232 executives control everything you see on television. Do you know who created the public school system? John D. Rockefeller. And guess what he said? I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. So why do you think the school system encourages us to go to school, get a good education so we can get a good job instead of starting a business? Business owners have to think. Employees are told what to do. I'm not putting it down. I was an employee for many years. I mean, sometimes I worked 2, 3 jobs at a time. You know, DJ parties, did furniture assembly. You know, so that was on top of the other stuff. You know, cut yard. Yeah, I've done quite a bit of things as an employee, and I always try to be a good employee. And you just get tired of people not appreciating your value. You know, you going in and work 5 in the morning and work until 11:30 at night, and somebody's working less hours than you, calling your boss's boss, telling them you watching the clock because they don't want to work as hard as you, so they're trying to destroy you. But I'm not here to talk about that. But business owners think. Employees are told what to do. Has that part of Rockefeller's plan been realized? Well, it has to be, because most of the people in this country are employees. They're workers. They're not thinkers. How can I say that? Do we have more business owners in this country, or do we have more employees? And it doesn't matter if that school system is public or private. The only way you can control what your child is learning is to homeschool them. And you know that method has to be very effective based on the attack dogs going after that system right now. People will protect the system, not understanding how the system has conditioned them to protect it. My wife and I had discussed when we first got married if we were going to have kids that they would be homeschooled. And my wife couldn't have any more kids when we married. She already had a couple. And, you know, but we had entertained the prospect of adopting. And I knew that going in. And we had discussed that if we were going to bring kids into this marriage, into this relationship, they would be homeschooled. It wasn't up for debate. It wasn't an option to send them to a school system, any school system. And my wife worked for the largest school system in the state of Texas. Two of my sisters are school teachers. My brother-in-law is an administrator in the school system. As good as all of them are in the school system, it was still a no for me because you have to do the bidding for the system education. Think about it. Recently, Mark Cuban came out and said no more national anthem in this game. Now, he recently recanted. A friend named Maurice sent me an article show that, he had to backtrack on that. And I don't care one way or another. I don't watch professional sports anymore anyway. Haven't watched a full professional game since the St. Louis Rams and the Tennessee Titans met in the Super Bowl, to give you an idea when was the last game I watched in its entirety. Oh, when the family comes over for, a get together or something like that, of course, I know they all want to watch sports. That's about the only time my TV gets put on sports. And I'm out of tune with everything. And they probably hate coming over here to watch with me because, I'll come in and, well, who is that? They'll start talking to me about the play. I'm like, who is that? Because I don't know. I don't get involved in it. I'm not good at spectating anyway. I like to play. I mean, I done aged out of that stuff, but I still like to play. And what I see now, it doesn't reek of sportsmanship. It doesn't reek of athleticism. It's turned into more of like WWE with pads or tennis shoes on. Why do you think it went from the WWF to WWE, Worldwide Entertainment, or World Wrestling Entertainment, whatever they call it? That's all sports have become for the most part, entertainment. It's not sports anymore. That's why they're introducing more women into the men's sports, because they want to entertain and attract women. But, some people say, oh, they're one of the male chauvinists. Well, I'm not chauvinist except sometimes. But, that's just me. And I'm not even here to talk about that. But I don't watch professional sports anymore. But think about this. Our ancestors would get up and they would get their kids up. And the first thing they would do with their families in the morning would be to pray and read the Bible before the day started. Once we turned our kids over to the school system, the first thing our kids did after they got up in the morning and went to school was they were taught allegiance to the state. Now, how can I say that? Every morning, once the school bell rings and the kids report to class, like Pavlov's dogs, they ring a bell and they come looking for their food. We have our kids stand up and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States. And if you're in Texas, they also have to pledge allegiance to the state of Texas via the flags. So we slowly removed our kids from getting godly guidance and allegiance to start their day and put them in a position to get state allegiance and guidance. Hey, I know the so-called patriots will get upset with this, but you know what? I don't care. And since the country had not been favorable to black people at the time when the public school system was created, this was one of the biggest insults to those people. The people were enslaved in this country, and to turn around and have them pledge allegiance to the same country was a slap in the face, because we got the very first version of the pledge in 1892. So to ask these newly freed slaves to pledge allegiance to the country that took the 40 acres back from them that Lincoln gave to them, that had the same country that wouldn't allow them into positions of prominence, that same company that wouldn't allow them into the same jobs as whites, and to turn around and turn them into sharecroppers, which was still nothing more than slave wages. You wanted these black people to turn around and pledge allegiance to that country? Yeah, I said it. I said it. And so that was a slap in the face to those black people. And you want somebody to run around here talk about you a patriot. Hey, the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson was an awesome movie. I watched it more than once. But to expect that out of black people, the people that you still treat in some cases less than human, is a slap in the face and an insult to black people. Have you ever read the Communist Manifesto or Das Kapital by Karl Marx? I mentioned those books in another video. I don't even remember which one it was. Um, and since many of you are at home right now, just grab you some digital copies and check them out. But I'm going to give you the myranjones notes. You know, when I was in school, we had something called Cliff's Notes. I never got them because I didn't have no extra money for that. But I'm going to give you the myranjones notes version. He gave 10 planks of slavery, but I'm only going to do the first 3. And I've been talking long enough as it is already. The first plank is abolition of property and land and application of all rents of land and public purposes. What do you think eminent domain is? They take your property for the public good. You are never given fair market value. And I mean, think about this too. Application of all rents of land and public purposes. Right now, Biden said he plans on extending rent-free and mortgage-free to September 30th, 2021. For the public good, to help people out. 2 Corinthians 8:13 says that you do not make it easy for others and burden yourself. What do you think having to pack up and relocate is in order to make it better for the public good when they come in with eminent domain? I just saw something earlier yesterday. Today, I don't know, whatever time it is, I don't remember. If I haven't went to bed yet, it's still the same day to me. But I saw where a tree had been cut down. The tree was 500 years old, and they recently cut it down so they could build a highway. I mean, trees not people, but you get the idea. The second plank is a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. Now, isn't it amazing that the more money you make, the more taxes you have to pay? How about we just get a flat rate? Unless you're a business owner and you learn how to work within the system, then you're gonna be punished. Don't you hate to work overtime? Don't you hate to get bonuses? The tax rate is atrocious on those things. I know from personal experience. The graduated tax is a way to discourage people from increasing their income. Because if you get punished for producing, you sometimes ask yourself, why should I produce more if I'm going to be punished for doing so? Excuse me. The third plank is the abolition of all rights of inheritance. Didn't Biden say he plans on raising the estate tax again? The Bible says in Proverbs 13:22 that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Do you know right now that the inheritance tax can go all the way up to 55% of what you leave your descendants of the worth of the estate? And each subsequent generation is actually hit with that same tax. So every time your inheritance is passed on, the taxation eats up more of the value that your ancestors worked hard for. And the stuff I'm talking about right now, just hurting my brain. Over in Ezekiel 46:18, it says the prince, and prince is the government, shall not take from the people's inheritance, depriving them of their property. He shall give his sons inheritance from his own property, so that my people will not be scattered, anyone from his property. I mean, you got to pledge allegiance to one or the other. You're going to either pledge allegiance to God or you're going to pledge allegiance to government, because everything the government is doing is ungodly. Didn't the Bible say you wipe off all debts after 7 years? How's that working out for you? Bible says one thing, government says no. I mean, you can go file bankruptcy, but you can't include them student loans in your bankruptcy. No, you a slave to that until you pay it off. Each plank in the manifesto is to destroy biblical freedom. And when that is lost, everything else is lost. Marx even said he wanted to destroy religion. Can you pray in school right now? I mean, skip over the virus situation. Skip over that. Let's look at it It's the way it was, when you go to school, because you still have kids going back to school. And it's amazing now they're coming out saying, we should be able to reopen the schools with no problem. It's amazing that they can reopen so much stuff now that Trump's gone. Man, if y'all can't see the plan, I feel bad for your son. I got 99 problems, but skipping over that truth ain't one. But can athletes pray before and after game like it was when I was in high school? We all know the answer to those questions. Some coaches have actually been fired from their job because they prayed with the team. I mean, really? Hey, I'm going to tell you something. If we had some non-believers on our team growing up, they kept it to themselves. And I mean, I know we did, but they kept it to themselves. You know why? Because the goal of the team was to win, not create division. And in this country, all that we have right now is a whole lot of division, and it did not start with Donald Trump. I know I said at the beginning of this video I would probably be all over the place. But if you paid attention to everything I talked about, all of it fits together. It's just a few pieces of the puzzle. I can keep talking, but I'm not, I'm already over an hour again anyway. My wife told me she's going to start staying up with me while I record the video. Maybe she want to say something. Nah, I doubt that. But those pieces are just a few pieces of the puzzle. See, we keep hearing that, things are going to be better in 2021. Things are going to get better in 2021. How's that working out? How many people have died already after getting a shot? In China over there talking about they want to stick a swab up your rear end to do the test. I mean, that's got to be humiliating and insulting. I remember some years ago I went to the doctor and the guy, it was a male nurse. Mr. Jones, I need you to bend over so I give you a shot. I said, hey man, what? I said, man, I just don't feel comfortable with that. Can you give me a shot somewhere else? But that's just me. And so, but these people are doing everything they can to humiliate us. And folks can't even see it because they say it's for the greater good. I mean, you get the shot, can you stop wearing the mask and are you immune to the virus? No. If you stay in your house, are you immune to the virus? No. If you ramp up your immune system, can you remove your mask? No. I mean, all these measures have been put in place to curb the spread, and based on what they keep telling us, the spread keeps spreading. And so this ain't ending no time soon. I read some information, and of course, and you find all your people that come out and say, it's not true. But they also said that the Event 201 wasn't true either, where they ran a simulation in October 2019 of what we're dealing with right now. What do you think war games are? They're simulations. What do you think all these, what do you want to call it, exercises they did before mass shootings in the exact same area that the mass shootings took place? Simulations. But coronavirus is slated to go through March 31st, 2025. Then there's a new simulation coming up called SPARS, SPARS. That's supposed to run from 2025 to 2028. And that's only 2 years out of the year 2030. Agenda 2030. Study that for yourself. But I'm getting ready to shut this off. But the more power you turn over to technology and the government, the less control you have. The more power you turn over to politicians, the less control you have. The more power we relinquish to the state, the less control we have. I've heard for many years that I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. It took me a minute to get to this point when it comes to voting. But I read in 1 Thessalonians 5 and 22, that we should stay away from every kind of evil. But hey, what do I know? Is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and directly from me at myranjones@gmail.com. Talk to you next time.